right. Welcome back, everyone, to DevOps Days Amsterdam online for one of our very last interviews. I'm so sad. We have been having such a good time. And Andrew Zigler, you're joining me today. Can you introduce yourself real quick for the audience?
Absolutely. So my name is Andrew. I'm a developer advocate at Mattermost. Mattermost, if you're not familiar with us, we're an open source operational hub for technical teams. And what that means is we're the place where you get your work done. And no matter how complex the task, we help you understand the context and work well with your colleagues. And we're an open source project. So it's really great to see how people solve complex problems on our platform by extending it and adding things to it. So that's what I'm all about, is kind of helping people develop those kinds of solutions and learn about what our product's about.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, we connected before the conference as well because I run an open source data infrastructure meetup, and you got to sponsor that one, which again, thank you so much. So fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us as part of it. Being able to kind of be involved with open source meetups, especially after COVID. You know, people are trying to reboot groups and meetups and be in person. It's really tough. So
it is tough.
Whatever kind of resources that we can provide, I was happy we were able to help you. Hope to help you some more in the future. And other folks as well. You know, if you have a meetup group, an open source group where you're meeting about technology, I'd love for you to get in touch so I can provide some pizza for your group as well.
I am sure we'll have some people following up and taking you up in that order. But you're not only here to sponsor meetups, because you also hosted a session on Wednesday, workshop. Do you want to tell us about the workshop a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did a workshop on open source developer demos from the perspective of someone who used to be a classroom teacher. So it was a workshop about a demo that I'd created at my job using lessons I'd learned in the classroom as a teacher. Because I have a non-typical tech background. I didn't study engineering, and I actually was in the workforce for several years before even moving into tech, and my background was in education. And so I lived abroad, and I taught English in Japan, and I lived in an environment where no one spoke my language and I barely spoke theirs. And so the things that you learn along the way about how to make lessons fun and how to make them impactful and to make them really resonate and build lessons over time is something that I was able to kind of translate into technology. And so talking about those successes, creating those demos, and what people can do to kind of unlock that for themselves.
Yeah, that's super fun, and I love that you're coming from a different field. We had a couple of people join us the last 2 days as well that come from a very different field and sort of like stumbled into technology. And one of them actually gave a talk too about traineeships, because she came from a human resources background. I come from an art school background. We just talked about it real briefly.
Yes.
And I think it's super interesting to see what kind of skills you can bring from your like sort of previous life right into your job right now.
Absolutely. And it's about like just having the right perspective on those skills and your background. And sometimes for non-technical folks or people who don't have that rigorous kind of training, they can be a little self-defeatist, right? But understanding that your different perspective can be a superpower, and understanding how to apply that and help others see unique things that maybe they can't because of how they were educated or trained or thought to approach something. So being able to kind of bring those perspectives and kind of teach that, I'm all about teaching, you know, it's been a really cool experience to just kind of learn along the way as well. And being humble, you know, always knowing that there's something new to learn and going for learning it yourself.
Yeah, that's so cool. And we were talking about languages just before. So, how many languages do you speak?
Well, speak is functionally just really a few. You know, actually, when I was in Japan, the Japanese I would learn from kindergartners and elementary schools on the playground. So it's actually
it's
quite
very
rude.
contextual.
Yeah. And so a lot of times when I would go to restaurants or even the grocery store or the bank in Japan, and I try to like interact with folks or just do business, I would get comments like, Andrew, your Nihongo ga urusai. It's rude. Why do you speak like that? It's like, I'm sorry, you know, all the Japanese I know I learned from an 8-year-old. So I speak English and a little bit of Japanese functionally, but I actually studied Latin and Greek in college. So I don't really speak them because there's no one really to speak Latin and ancient Greek to.
No, you don't just, there's no meetup for
there's no meetups for
and
Herodotus and Livy these days, sadly, as much as I would love to dig in. But as well from that, you know, programming languages, which are their own kind of form of communication, and just being able to kind of understand the base level similarities between languages we speak and languages that computers use is actually kind of a really cool intersection of skills, I think.
Yeah, no, I think so. Like, I think languages, both like programming languages and like human languages, they have, they all have conventions and exceptions, and it's super interesting. And once you start learning multiple languages, but also when you're learning multiple programming languages, you get to see the differences and the similarities, and they help you learn too. So once you got sort of like one language under the belt, like it's so much
Absolutely.
easier to pick up on something else, right?
Yeah, they all build on each other, and then they provide so much more context. And then you learn, like a word in one language and then a word in another, and you realize how similar they are. And
that's because some sort of like historic event, probably.
yeah,
where,
and it's just cool, like to get the context on that and understand, especially like when I studied Latin and Greek, being able to understand like the roots of words that we see and use all the time. It's like, oh, that's what that means. That's why we say so and so, because there's this weird Latin word along those lines. So I love those little obscure facts, obviously, as somebody who studies ancient history. But it's been really cool to kind of just see how all of that can converge.
Yeah, that's so cool. Like, and I'm sure there would have been some time during the open spaces to gather a crowd around that are similar, like nerdish about languages.
Oh, please, absolutely. There's lots of people here who speak lots of languages, and it's always some of my favorite parts about traveling and coming to conferences like this is learning their different backgrounds and getting exposed to all sorts of different cultures, just as somebody who just loves to just go dive into new cultures himself.
It's also why I love being part of the DevOps Days organization, because you have DevOps Days in all kinds of cities, and so you get to also see how a DevOps Days concept works or it needs to adapt to all of the different cities. So like cultures or different cultures is also such an interesting.
It's all about the free exchange of ideas, and that's what DevOps Days is so great about. Like with the laws of mobility, with people going from place to place and exchanging ideas, but then some folks staying and sharing the great ideas they've been sitting on for a long time. And so I completely agree with you. It's just so fun to come and open your eyes to just things that you didn't know before.
Exactly. Well, we only have a little bit of our event left.
Sadly, almost coming to an end.
Yes, exactly. So what's coming up next for us is a couple of more talks, right, and a couple more open spaces. So I hope that you get to engage in those a little bit.
Oh, absolutely. You're going to see me. I'm going to be a bumblebee going between all different things.
Very good.
Seeing people are talking about, because like I said, just here to absorb, be a sponge, and just kind of see what people are all about.
Excellent. Well, I'm very glad that you could join me for a little interview right now.
Absolutely.
And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your DevOps Days Amsterdam, and hope to see you again very soon. Maybe at the next DevOps Days Amsterdam. Who knows? Another workshop.
Yeah, maybe another event in the future. Maybe I'll buy more pizza for more of your meetups.
For more meetups.
Exactly.
I will run some more meetups. So.
Yeah, we'll run that one later.
Gotcha.
But it's been fantastic being here, and thanks for having me for the interview.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we're going to our regular program again in the main hall. While us, the online team, will join you for a online agile coffee. So if that's something you're interested in, check the live chat for the link, and we'll see you there.